I am the candidate that's bringing this unifying message that's not based on hate, not based on hate for Trump or hate for the other party or hate for any one group or another, but is building this coalition of support that's centered around love of country and the recognition that when we treat each other with respect as Americans, bringing our different ideas and perspectives to the forefront to solve these problems.
Joining me now, Fox News contributor Lisa Boothe. Lisa, Tulsi's message not getting through the Democrats. Certainly, the idea because of unifying all Americans, because they have focused on Trump hatred. I mean, it's
right,
and I think it's really backfiring on them now. This idea of anyone but Trump, because when they say anyone in any record, they may have to live up to some embarrassing stuff.
Well, I mean, the question is going to be not about unifying the country, but can they unify the party? And you look
That's
now.
what Elizabeth Warren is saying that she wants to do.
Well, that's not happening right now. I mean, look, you've got Bernie Sanders, who's, essentially the front runner right now of the Democratic primary so far. And the establishment Democrats are desperately trying to search for who is going to be the alternative. And we've seen that with Bloomberg, who's recently got some congressional endorsements. He's being talked up right now because Democrats are terrified of the prospect of Bernie Sanders being their nominee.
But they're also terrified of, for instance, if you look through like this week, and I'm toggling around the channels, and I stopped at MSNBC for a moment.
Why would you do that?
You know what? Because I like to know what everyone's thinking, and they seem to be in a pretzel, like over a Bloomberg presidential candidacy. Because how can you say that Donald Trump, has done things that are intimidating to black people, and then contrast Bloomberg's actual record, not rhetoric, and then the articles about the women that have come out, this tape today with the farmers. If this is what they said they stood for coming into this election, they were the party of youth, blacks, Hispanics, and the future. And right now it's a bunch of old white guys, right, that they say they don't like, that they say that they've evolved beyond that, espousing messages that if any Republican espoused them, they would go crazy. They would be in a soapbox screaming racist.
Well, I mean, that's typically how it works. And at least on the, race questions, I think what would be interesting, I mean, each of the frontrunners have their own issues, right? You've got Bill Clinton, or you've got Joe Biden, who helped write the 1994 federal crime bill. That was an issue for Hillary Clinton in the 2016 race. You've got Pete Buttigieg, which has his own issues in South Bend. Amy Klobuchar has come under fire recently for her record as a prosecutor. So it'll be interesting if Bloomberg ends up on the debate stage on the 19th this week. If they raise those issues and his, pass with stop and frisk,
but
if they raise that on the debate stage.
They've painted President Trump and his supporters as racist. And the things that they're saying that, based on a tweet, based on comments, which, listen, comments can hurt people's feelings. Comments can bother people versus actual records of the things they say they're afraid could happen have happened, and they're going to elect someone who did them, and they're in a pretzel over that. And what I love what Tulsi Gabbard is saying is that why can't the president of the United States run on a message that all Americans should be embraced?
Well, I think that's what President Trump's done. I mean, he has pushed policies that have lifted up all Americans. It doesn't matter if you're a woman. It doesn't matter if you're African American. It doesn't matter if you're Asian. He has helped all Americans. I mean, every single group of voters are essentially doing better under this president. So that's going to be his message heading into the election. But, about Bloomberg, one thing that I've been saying that, I think is going to be interesting, we really haven't seen Bloomberg. And you look at the comment about farmers, you can kind of get a glimpse of how terrible of a candidate he truly is. If he actually ends up on the debate stage, we will see him for who he is, just regardless of, where he's been recently, of just standing behind this manufactured version of hundreds of millions of dollars in paid advertising that he's done so far.
In fact, although he's yet to qualify for the debate stage in Vegas,
probably will, though.
But that's not stopping his fellow Democrats. They've been in the attack on him. Let's just take a listen to what they're saying about him.
Sure.
Billionaires are going to have more shoes. They're going to have more cars. They're going to have more houses, but they don't get a bigger say in our democracy.
Democracy to me means one person, one vote. Not Bloomberg or anybody else spending hundreds of millions of dollars trying to buy an election.
$60 billion can buy you a lot of advertising, but it can't erase your record. There's a lot to talk about, Michael Bloomberg.
All right, so what do you make of it? I mean, if he doesn't make the debate stage this week, he's got to be there one day and face all of this.
Well, potentially South Carolina. I mean, I think it's interesting to hear from Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren because they so often attack the rich, yet they're millionaires themselves, which you know, sounds great. But so they're a little bit of hypocrites on that. But yeah, I mean, the attention has, you know, shifted to Bloomberg because he does have so much resources. Because typically what happens, you know, if you lose the early primary states, which he hasn't played in yet, but he will for Super Tuesday, you're out. Right. That typically is the end of your candidacy, which is something Joe Biden is going to be struggling with considering his poor performances in Iowa and New Hampshire. But Bloomberg, since he's worth tens of billions of dollars, he can stay in this thing as long as he wants because he's not reliant upon outside donors. He can self-finance.
The plot thickens, as they say.
It sure does.
All right. Thanks
and
a lot.
it hasn't ended. It's going to be a while.
All right, folks.